Thank you for joining us here in Gorton or Denton rather today. Just got a couple of questions for you. So is the reason we're talking about Labour potentially losing this seat because recent polls have found that actually the main high-profile Labour figures that are most widely popular are the two of you?
Yeah. Do you want to start?
Look, I think that we're here because this by-election is not just about a fight for the Labour Party, it's a fight for what this area and indeed what the country stands for. And I thought Angeliki put it so well in her speech just now when she said that she is fighting against the politics of division. And Andy put it so well in saying this is about the values of this area. And we've seen what happens when you normalise the far right and the rhetoric of the far right. It just allows even more hatred and even more division. So I'm incredibly proud of Angeliki and I'm incredibly proud of this campaign. And look, if people want a vote for progress, a vote for unity, a vote against division, a vote against hatred, there's only one candidate to vote for, and that's Angeliki.
No, I would say, to back up everything Ed's saying, this is a very united Labour campaign. Actually, it's brought people together for exactly the reason that Ed gives, and for us it's about defending what Manchester has always stood for, a place where people pull together, where by doing that we achieve more, and we are achieving. We're the fastest growing city region in the country, and that's based on the belief we have in being a welcoming place. If you allow the politics of poison into Greater Manchester, a politics that pits people and communities against each other, you put all of that at risk. So there's more than just, if you like, party politics at stake in this by-election. It's actually the philosophy that we've always put forward in Greater Manchester. The partnership between the 10 boroughs, the partnership between people, between communities, that has built our success, and we are proudly defending that.
We've talked a lot about the politics of division, and certainly residents are really keen to discuss that issue. One thing that Matthew Goodwin, Reform's candidate, has been saying a lot is that Labour have already caused division in this community because of the WhatsApp scandal that led to the suspension of Andrew Gwynn. And so perhaps for residents, quite fairly, they've said Labour is the one sowing division. What do you say to that?
I don't recognise that at all, honestly. I mean, look, Matthew Goodwin, the guy says that you can't be British if you weren't born here, right? I mean, that is an insult to so many people who contribute to this country. It's an insult to my parents who came here fleeing from the Nazis and contributed to this country. Those are the stakes in this by-election. And this guy, I don't think he represents the values of this constituency, and we are determined to call it out. And I'll also say this. You see what happens when you normalise this type of rhetoric, because you saw it with Jim Ratcliffe this week. Colonisation. And I think we were so right, and I thought Andy did it really, really well to call this out this week, because we're not having it anymore. We're not going to have people who are frankly repeating the tropes of the 1980s, which when Andy and I were growing up, and we thought we'd never return to those tropes and that stirring up of hatred.
Absolutely.
And I think actually in Angeliki we've got somebody who is actually a symbol of the values of what we're actually about as a country.
And let me go straight to their politics as well, which they don't talk about as much as we should be talking about. They've welcomed any old Tory into this Reform Party. The dregs of the Tory Party, the hard Thatcherites have come into Reform UK. It was the Thatcher government that divided communities here, that took our buses off us and deregulated them and left people paying high fares for decades, that deindustrialised this part of the world. They broke and divided these communities all those years ago. Reform are a hard Thatcherite party. The people at the top of it were the cheerleaders for the privatisations of the 80s and 90s that have left people now paying high water bills, high energy bills, high rail fares. They have done all of that, and that's basically the politics that they represent. So they can point to any things that come and go in politics. It's what they actually stand for that matters in this by-election, for division and for a politics that basically will divide people one from another.
And also, I'd just add to that, I think Andy's so right about this. And if you want to mend a broken economic system, which so many people do, there's no way that the people who helped break the economic system, who are now playing to reform, I mean, Nigel Farage isn't going to mend the broken economic system. He believes in that economic system.
Well, he's proven it this week. He's a spokesperson man for the billionaire class, isn't he? That's what he is.
Although those political issues are really pressing in this community, particularly when you talk about past failings of different parties, I think the memory of being laughed at in a WhatsApp group is really fresh for a lot of residents around here. They tell me when I'm out reporting here a lot. Do you think that's going to be trouble for
Nobody's going to defend that, and that was wrong. And
100%.
And obviously, people have got to be held to account who were involved in that. That's a given, and no one here is saying anything else other than that. But what we are saying is we are doing things to help people in this community. We have put more police back on the streets after the austerity of the Tory Lib Dem years kind of decimated GMP. We have given people here the low bus fares that helps them every single day with the cost of living crisis. We have a plan to bring Metrolink tram train through Denton to Ashton that we are bringing forward, recognising that this community does need more, and I recognise that. It needs more investment, it needs more connectivity. So, yeah, all of those things is what I would say back. In the end, Denton is part of the fastest growing city region in the country. We are the success story in many ways of this country. We've got to do more though now to make sure every community feels that, and that's what we're doing.
And also, I think, I'd add to that, we understand that people will feel angry about what Andrew Gwynn did, and they're right to feel angry about that. But the vote at this by-election is who now represents this constituency. And, as I was saying in there, in Angeliki, we've got somebody who would be such a brilliant member of Parliament. She will really work incredibly hard for this area. She's got the experience, and as I say, I think she embodies the values that we want in members of Parliament.
That leads me quite nicely onto the local issues that are coming to really define this by-election. Things like fly tipping, antisocial behaviour, littering.
Yeah.
It really feels like it's defining this campaign. But as you've said, this is part of one of the fastest growing city regions in the whole world, but I don't necessarily feel like Denton residents at least feel like they're being brought along on that journey. How can you convince voters that Labour can be trusted to deliver in this area when for so many years they've had control of it, but people don't necessarily feel like it has benefited them and they've seen change they want to see?
Well, I would recognise we need to do more, and we are doing more, particularly with the plan for Denton Station and the new service through there that I'm 100% committed to, as are everybody in the TFGM. What I would say though is we are delivering. There are more police on the streets here than there were a few years ago because of the Labour Mayor working with the Labour Council. I've mentioned buses being under public control and all of the benefits that we're getting. Older people living in Denton and disabled people, 2 weeks tomorrow, will have the freedom to travel all day without the 9:30 restriction on their passes. Some people might say that's a small thing, but it isn't actually. If you have a hospital appointment, or you look after your grandkids, or you need to get out to work, these things matter to people. So I'm not going to say we've fixed everything. No, I'm not going to claim that. But are we doing things all of the time to make people's lives that little bit better? Yes, we are, and we can prove that by the things that we've put in place. The £2 bus fare every single day when someone taps on one of our buses here, that is in place here, and it isn't in place anywhere else outside of London, or very few places, because we recognise the need to help our residents with the cost of living crisis.
And also, I would just add, at a sort of more general level, I think it's really important for your readers and others to know we recognise the scale of the cost of living crisis that people have faced. And it's not just the cost of living crisis of the last 5 years, it's the last 15 years, basically. And what Andy is doing, what the government is doing, is trying to move things in the right direction. But we know we've got a long way to go, and you know, we know this is job only just started in terms of what we've got to do to help people, because it's a legacy of decades, frankly, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
That we've got to overcome.
One other thing I just want to say about Tameside generally is not so much Denton directly, but Tameside generally. Later this year, we're going to bring rail into the B network, and practically every single rail station in Tameside comes into the B network in December, and that will mean the whole of it will be integrated, bus, tram, train, and it will actually give Tameside the best public transport system anywhere in the country outside of London. And I absolutely can stand by that as a commitment. So when all is in the B network in December this year, I think Tameside will have such an advantage in terms of inward investment and forward regeneration.
Relating to your brief a bit more specifically on this issue around kind of local problems defining this campaign, the environment has come up time and time again when I've spoken to residents, whether that's clean air and problems with pollution on the roads, or whether it's beauty spots being threatened by potential housing developments. From your perspective, what does Labour have to offer when there has been Labour MPs here, Labour councillors for so many years, and these problems are still persisting, and you have a very strong Green Party candidate that is making that argument?
Look, I'm incredibly proud of what we're doing around issues of climate, nature, and the environment. And look, what we're doing is we're recognising that the biggest single challenge people face in our country is this long-term affordability crisis. And creating the good jobs of the future is absolutely key to this. And this is something that Andy and I work on a lot together. There is the biggest single employment opportunity is tackling the climate crisis in all kinds of different forms, from offshore wind to nuclear to a whole range of things, to insulating homes. Look, just in the last month, we've come out with our Warm Homes Plan, the biggest single public investment we've ever seen in this country in upgrading homes so that you can both cut people's energy bills, create good jobs, and tackle the climate crisis, and all of those things go together. And I noticed the Greens really don't seem to be campaigning that much on these issues of climate and the environment, which I think is maybe a sense that they concede that we're doing a decent job on it. But you know, people should be in no doubt that this is about a vision of the future. It's about doing the right thing for young people and future generations, but it's also about doing the right thing for people today.
And on the couple of issues you mentioned, clean air and fly tipping, just to say something, we are on course to hit compliance with our legal targets around clean air this year because of the B network. So Ashton has the first fully electrified bus depot in Greater Manchester, and the pollution that used to come out of buses, the old ones, and you know the stuff coming out the back and the noise, that's gone. You know, we have a modern bus fleet here that doesn't pollute, and hence the air quality has now come within legal limits. So we've done that the Greater Manchester way by giving people a positive reason to use public transport, and that has helped clean up the air. On fly tipping, I take the point, and I signalled at the combined authority meeting yesterday and that I will be bringing forward a new approach to fly tipping, recognising what's being said in this by-election, but also more broadly across Greater Manchester. And we have a situation in Wigan where there's just I don't know if you've seen it, by the way, I wanted to talk to you about it. There's just a sort of ocean of waste that's been illegally dumped, and Josh Simons, the MP, has been campaigning about it. So it is a real issue. And I think the new approach has got to be less borough by borough trying to tackle it, because I don't necessarily think it's just random individuals. I think there's a criminal element behind fly tipping that needs disrupting at a GM level. So I'm going to be asking the Chief Constable to do a specific piece of work to understand the patterns of fly tipping across the city region, because I am very sure that there is a criminal element linked to this.
Thanks, guys. We're going to have to get out on the doors. Sorry.
Can I ask one more question one more time? I think nationally the country has rather been rocked by the Mandelson affair. How do you think that will influence this election, given that we're almost there? It's only a couple of weeks away now, and it's still very fresh in people's minds here.
Look, we've had a difficult week, but more to the point, I think it's really important that kids taking responsibility for what happened. Mandelson doesn't represent who the Labour Party is or what the government stands for. And I think the best thing we can do, and I think what this is the decision the Labour Party took this week, is focus on the country, not on ourselves. Because I think that's what people want us to do. There are so many challenges that this country faces, from the cost of living crisis, the NHS, to all of these things, and people want us focused on them. And I think what I want your readers to know is that, you know, people looked over the precipice this week and thought, no, we don't want to do this. We want to focus on the country. And that's what we're doing in this by-election.
Yeah, and it's all how you respond to these things. I mean, obviously, it goes back to a time when we were in the government, some time ago. However, it's how you respond when it's revealed. And I think Gordon Brown has been demonstrating that leadership. Keir is picking up some of those themes in terms of now the changes that we want to make. And I would point to the government's commitment around the House of Lords, and the time has come to replace it with a Senate of the nations and regions. We can't have any more people in our national parliament that are sort of riddled with conflicts of interest, unelected. This is a moment, I think, to really go now as a government that has commitments in this space, to have some root and branch change at that level, replace the House of Lords with an elected chamber. I hope that's what will come through, because I believe what has been revealed needs a major response. But I see it coming now through what Gordon is saying, what Keir is saying, and what Labour people are saying.
Thanks very much.
Thanks everybody.